Hi, my name is Lissy and welcome to the Lunaro showcase and the tutorial that comes with this brush set. First, as usual, I would like to show you what's in the brush set that you are going to get. This is what you will see when you download your brushes. As you can see, it's quite a lot. So I made a top picks folder on top of it, so you can just drag and drop your favorite brushes on the top, and then you don't have to look for it all the time. First, there's some liner brushes on the top. This one is a pencil liner called Thick Softly. The second one is probably very familiar for my Patreons because this one has been on Patreon for a while now, available to use for my patrons. I'm gonna turn off the texture for a second. The texture is literally only just two watercolor paper overlays, one on color burn, the other one on linear burn, so they don't add any extra texture except for the paper itself in this set. Everything comes from the brushes here. This is the gouache brush for lining. There's an edgy, the digital pencil that is perfect for those who like the digital look, and there's a simple shape builder to block out simple shapes that you need to add some extra texture to, so you don't have to worry about the opacity itself. I'm going to clear this layer and I will show you the real watercolor shape builders with a light color because I like light pink. This is the main one that we are going to use in this video, called Fluoresca. Clouded Moon is a version of this, except it's more lighter and more textured. Trust is a really basic watercolor builder. I would say it's more in between digital and traditional look. No One Told Me. This one I imagine in a more storybook illustration style. Soapy is one of my favorites actually, because when you press hard it makes hard edges and you can just blend it out right away into the lighter parts, so it blends perfectly as it goes. Sand in My Hair might be very familiar to those who have Solaris, since this is a brush that was in Solaris in the beginning. When you press lightly it becomes like this, and when you press harder it adds the texture to it. This is not something that it did in Solaris. I did it, or I redid it rather to be more useful in this set, and I wanted to add it because it's just perfect for this set. It's a duplicate. You will have a duplicate brush if you just go by the name. And this one is more of a digital looking brush. And that's all your shape builders. I would like to show you the texture creators. For that I'm going to make two blobs. One with a more watercolory look. Oh, I like when Procreate does it. I don't know why it does it. I'm not touching it, I swear. But it does the random undo. I don't know why. So I'm going to make a watercolor blob here. Like so. And I'm going to make a more saturated blob next to it, so we can see the difference on how it looks on a saturated blob and a watercolor blob. We are going to add a clipping mask. We are going to make it multiplied so we can really see the effect. Make it a bit darker and let's go. Here's the first one. with which I personally really like. You might realize that this is the very effect I use on my flat drawings. The nerve is something that you might have, because this has been in my Christmas gift for last year, and also in my Patreon brush set. Magica is one of my favorites because it's, look, it is magical. This is the one I use the most. It's like glass shards everywhere. It's beautiful. Space cactus. Yes, I don't know what I was thinking with these names, but these are the names that became the thing, and the names stayed. Space hedgehog is really subtle, so it's for places where you just want a hint of a different texture. Maybe I'll turn it on and off so you can see. And lastly, this one. You will have to experiment yourself which one you like the most or which one is your go-to set, but this is basically the basic idea of this set, that you make a blob or a shape with the shape builder brushes, and then you add a texture with the texture creators, and then it becomes a more richer, amazing watercolor. It's different from Solaris in a way that in Solaris you just use a canvas and then you draw on it, and that's your texture and that's it. In this one you customize your own texture and you make a texture depending on what you would like to do. I'm gonna turn these off and show you the washes that come with the set. This is right away my favorite one, called Starry Night. It's not very traditional watercolor, it's more like if I would add salt to it on paper, and I really like that kind of look, so to me it's dear to my heart. The second one is the very basic watercolor wash, and here comes a more digital looking one. It's very sharp and the edges are really clear. These are perfect for those, if you played the game Grease, this is the kind of wash they probably used in it. I'm gonna clear because I'm out of space. This is a flat brush that you can use for washing out places, and when you go over it, it adds more water. The lighter you press, the more water it adds. So you press hard, you add the color. You press light, it adds the water. This is again a soft watercolor wash, and except this one has color variation that you can turn off if it bothers you in brush settings under color dynamics, and just turn off any color dynamics that you don't like. Just mist. Super subtle but very watery. And lastly, it's also a super subtle one, but how nice, except for the random undo that Procreate does. I don't know, does it do it for you? Please let me know. It works the same way as the other ones. So when you press harder, you add more water. And then when you press, no, the other way around. When you press harder, you add more color. When you press lighter, you add more water, yes. And you can blend it out perfectly to a perfect washed background, for example. I kept the two shapes that I made earlier, because I want to talk about texture blending a bit, because I tried this method now as well, and added some blending brushes to this set, which means that you can blend out the edges. The first few, they have still color in them, so it's not only water but color too, so you have to keep that in mind, that you will put down color too, so you could do a double color kind of blend, I guess, like so, except even more time to blend it out, because this is a very time consuming thing to do, but the end result will be worth it. I promise you it's worth it. Just don't want to waste your time with just showing this off and you're like, come on, Lacey, just show me the rest of it. But yeah, this is basically the idea. And these blending brushes are just basically the same idea, all of them, just with a different texture that you can put down, and so they can achieve a different look, each of them. I'm only showing it on this watercolor blob that I made in the beginning. I don't know, maybe you wanted to see it on the other one as well, but I think the effect looks better on the watercolor one than on the normal shape, but it does work on the normal shape as well. Yes, it takes a while. There's really quite a few of this, and I don't want to show all of them because it's just the same over and over again. What I would like to point out is more like these kind of watercolor blenders that do not have any color in them. So when you pull, I'm just pulling it right in the middle, in both of them. I'm starting from the top. You can't see my brush, but I'm starting from the top and then I'm going down. It's only water, so you can blend shapes into nothingness, like so, with only water, and you will not add anything more color into your shape or drawing that you are doing. I also added some stamps. The way I use these, I will just clear this and make a new shape. So the way I use this is just stamp it on top of a already existing shape when I have it, so it adds some more texture. I usually use these kind of stamps in my smooth drawings, like the one that I used to have as the Discord banner. But yeah, these are all the brushes that you will get, and I hope you learned some already on how to use them, because now we are going to go into drawing with them as well. So this was the real-time part of the video. Now we are going into the drawing, and this will be twice the speed that I actually did it, because I don't want to waste your time so much. I'm just showing off the layers that I have. I have the sketch on a different layer, and I have the dirty sketch on another layer, and I made a layer on top of my Lunaro paper textures, because I'm going to pick the colors first, and I need it above the overlay, because the overlay can change the color quite a bit. I'm going to pick the Studio Pen, which is the basic Procreate brush, because it has full opacity, so I can't really screw up any colors like this. These are the two main colors that I know that I want to be represented in my piece, that blue and that orange. But if I do the blue like this, you can see exactly what I am talking about. I made a layer below my sketch, by the way. That's how I'm showing it, because I am just checking how the colors will be, and I urge you to do this because it helps a lot when creating a piece. So as you can see, with the overlay, the colors are darker, so I have to make it lighter. So I will start a new layer and pick a lighter version of that face color that I picked, and I will have to pick a lighter version of the blue as well. That will be good for my drawing itself. I am picking the blue, and now we will move on to the rest of the drawing. I want to have my colors in it, which is pinks and peaches and oranges in it, and it's mixed with this blue, which is kind of the counterpart of it. So I'm just planning out if it looks good, and I just paint it with the Studio Pen, so nothing fancy. I'm not using any fancy brushes here. I'm just using the Studio Pen to plan out the colors. And obviously the most important part of this is what color the hair will be. My normal hair color that I usually go for is pink, but here I was like, oh, I could like change it to blue maybe, because I want so much blue here, so I will paint it blue. But no, I will change it to pink, because pink is always better, and those two blue are too similar. I marked it out as well, so I'm going for more of a blush or like peach color, but it still doesn't really, it's not really a thing for me, so I just go for my go-to pink. And I'm thinking that it's a bit too close to the face, but whatever, we are going to fix it. I'm going to pick every color that I have now from the layer, and just make sure that I will know which one is which. The pink is on a different part because I know that that's the hair. The skin color and the lips will be on a different spot, and then I will put all the colors that are come after another on the little poncho under each other, so I know which one comes after the next one in order. I will completely forget this order, by the way. This is a spoiler alert. Spoiler, I will completely discard this order that I just made, but whatever. I decided on that. The colors are there. They are always going to be on top, and now I'm just checking if they are different or if they are good enough when I'm putting it under the paper overlays. First, I'm going to pick the pink, and we are going to start painting. As I mentioned earlier, we are going to use the Fluoresca brush on this drawing, on a new layer. I am going to just block out the space that I want to be the hair. I'm doing this really slowly because I don't like when I lift my brush, but if you lift your brush, there is no problem at all. You can smudge the edges away with the same brush, with the smudge tool. So there's no problem if you pick up your brush. I will do it later as well. And right now too, I want very defined edges. And for that I have to redo the lines anyways, and I'm going to show you right away how to smudge it out. I picked the same brush with smudge tool, and now I'm going to just smudge it out the darker edges so it will not show that it's a different brush stroke. I'm going to do the same thing over and over with the rest of this drawing. I'm going to block out the different parts of it, and then I'm going to smudge out the edges where I lifted my brush so it looks more unified. And in the meantime, enjoy some music. One thing to note here is that I'm putting everything on a different layer is because I want everything to be modifiable. I am very undecisive about colors. I always pick my colors in the beginning, but then I always decide on something different. And it's much easier to change colors when they are on different layers. So I always put everything on a different layer, and then when I completely am sure that I'm okay with the colors, that's when I merge them together. Or yes. And the other thing is that you will see later on that same colors but different saturations and brightness are still going on the same layer because they are similar. Like the skin color that I'm painting now is very similar to one of the colors on the poncho. So I'm going to paint that same color on the poncho because, it helps me to modify the same colors together. And also it doesn't really make a difference to put it on a different layer. So you can save some layers here. There was not much planning with this painting. I didn't paint it out before I recorded this video, and so there is some experimentation going on in it, which is my usual painting style, and I decided to share the entire process because I don't want you to feel like that, oh, everything is just so perfect when she is drawing it. Why is it not going perfect for me when I am drawing with it? Well, I am not perfect at all. In fact, I just made the colors wrong order, but that's obviously not what I mean. What I mean is that I do a lot of experimentation, which is mostly the reason why I don't like recording my own process, because I feel like everyone who is doing tutorials, they are always doing it perfectly, and I am not perfect. My drawings are not perfect. When I paint is not perfect, and I do not have the mental energy to draw it over and over again, because yay, mental health. And it's just, it can get to my head quite a bit that everyone is doing it very nicely and awesomely and I can't. So I just want you to see that I personally am not doing it perfectly either. We are moving into a different stage of this drawing with, shading, I guess you would call it. I will put my sketch on top of everything and change the blending mode to color burn, because then the lines show up, but they are not as distracting as black, but more blending into the artwork itself. I'm going to do some of my magic brush work with a multiply layer over it. This is where I draw the shadows, and this is just what I talked about, very experimental. I'm thinking the light is coming from behind her, and the multiply layer is giving really nice texture to my watercolors. I'm just adding the shadows where I would usually add it on a portrait. So the nose is shading the eye, the other eye, and then under the nose it's always shady, and the part of the face that is on the other side, that the cheek that is not on our side where we are looking at it, is also in the shadow. So I'm just adding these kind of shadows right now. I got a bit discouraged at this point, so I was like, oh my god, I need some magic in my life. So I started using the Magica brush, and I'm like, oh yes, now it looks like more watercolor, and I love the more watercolor look. So the Magica brush is also on a layer that is multiply above the skin layer, and I love how it looks. This brush is literally my favorite right now. Well, apart from the gouache one, because I keep talking about how much I love the gouache one. And yes, it made such a difference, and it made me feel much better about my drawing too. And to make myself feel even better, I will just go on and do the same thing on every layer that I did before. So every layer will have the magicka on top of it with a darker shade of that color that I used, and then it will make some nice burnt edges on the sides and also some texture, which will give a little bit of oomph to the drawing. I would be lying if I didn't struggle with the hair on this drawing. I am not used to drawing watercolor hair right now, and I like drawing with gouache at the moment, which means that I tried to implement the same style that I usually use on gouache in this drawing as well. So I blocked out the lighter part and the darker part, and then I was going to do line work on it, but it doesn't look as great when it's watercolor. So I ended up with just blocking out the edges with magicka to make sure it looks burnt watercolor, and decided on places where it would look darker, and then I just left it at that stage because at the moment I can't really think about any better way to do it. I also added some different shades since I also like doing that, and I thought, why am I not doing this on this drawing? Am I trying to fulfill some kind of expectation that doesn't even exist? So yes, I decided that let's go and add the different colors that I usually do, and I made the other part of the hair darker since it's in the background or shadow, and I also have plans for that part. Obviously, I have plans for that part. I added some different colors to the poncho part too, to make it a bit more interesting and more like how I use traditional watercolors, just mixing colors on the tray itself and then hope for the best results. And yes, you can do that here as well. We are going into the next stage again, which will be line art. That is really important for me. I use line art in most of my art, and I decided that I will go for Pick Softly, because it's a pencil brush and we are going for a more traditional look with this drawing right now. So I would think that it's more of a pencil outline that I would do, or maybe it would be an ink one, but I haven't tried ink outline in Procreate yet with my drawings. If you want an expert with that, you should check out Inky Paper House on Instagram, because, well, she's my friend and she's amazing with watercolor and ink. I am not so amazing with it, and also I would like to do more ballpoint pen kind of drawing, not the traditional ink kind. Anyways, I'm just drawing darker lines on the places or on the parts of the sketch that I would like to keep. Namely, I want to keep the eyelids, because I think it's really important to have those defined. The edge of the eye a bit, so it doesn't blend in as much. I was going to brighten the white of the eye as well, but then I thought, nah, it's enough that it has so much contrast already with the brown eyes, and if I brighten it any longer, then it will look kind of creepy. So I just decided on darker eyelids, and I am going to just progress on this in the upcoming minutes and put eyelashes on a different layer, because I always have some kind of problem with eyelashes. And if you have some kind of problems with eyelashes, it always helps when you draw out a curve already that is like parallel to the eye itself, and then you just draw the eyelashes to that curve, like the end at that other curve. I didn't do it on this drawing, but it's just a parallel curve with the top lid of the eye, if that's what it's called in English. I also decided to define the nose a bit more. I am very shy when it comes to nose drawing, and I decided that I will define it a bit more with a bit darker line and make it more prominent, that's where the nose ends. That's not just a bump on her face, that's the nose. I'm adding in the irises on a different layer with dark brown, not black, because I think black, I know irises are black, but I like the brown version more. It's less intrusive. Then I'm trying out highlights, which one looks better on eye, and I will go with this one that I'm drawing now. That's the final version. And then new layer, and I will pick a pink, and with short outward movements I'm going to just draw in the eyebrows, which is one of my favorite things to draw, by the way. And here comes a part where I was struggling quite a bit because I didn't know what to do with this part. As in, while I don't know what my style is when it comes to hairstyle in watercolor. I like when it's just a couple of hints, I think, with watercolor, but I also don't want to be as bright as I started drawing, so I muted it, and then I couldn't mute it as much as I wanted to because this is still very dark. So lighter, still very dark, even lighter. Yeah, I drew out the hair that I would draw with gouache, and at the end I am not sure if I like it. I have to, I think, take a break and look at it in a different day or different time, because even now that I'm talking under this, I still can't decide if I like the hair like this or not, but I still decided to keep it in it because maybe you do like the hair that I'm drawing, so maybe you want to know how I draw it, and that's basically I just decide where the hair would have bunches, like how it would connect to the head, and from that very point I just draw a lot of strands of hair going from. And then I also decided that if this drawing would have hair style, then it would be a bit more geometric. So we will see how it will be in the final version when I'm actually uploading this. But for now I'm really not sure about this hair, and I just keep it in it for good measure, and it will still take me days to decide. And yes, I just kept the hair in it so you know how I drew the hair. Here comes the part that is essential to all my drawings. Super essential. We take the gouache brush and draw stars, because without stars, what are we without stars? I'm just going with the stars. Yeah, I need stars in my life. I love it, so has to do it. And finally, these are the final touches. I'm going to add some shadows under the hair, where it would have shadows on the poncho with the gouache brush and the dark brownish color, and the layer being a multiply. And I'm going to lower the opacity. Yes. And I'm going to make a new layer and add the highlights to the hair with add, and make it really subtle. Now I'm going to change it at least 3 times because it's not subtle enough. But this is your tutorial for now, and I hope you really enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something from it, and I hope that you really like these brushes. And I am so thankful that you stayed with me so long. Thank you. Enjoy some close-ups of the drawing that we just did together, and as you can see, the hair became a more simple version than we drew. Bye!